This week in our Torah portion, we reach the final chapters in the book of Leviticus. And for months, we have lived in this priestly world, absorbing ancient knowledge, and as we do each year, scrutinizing the description of both caste and ritual that no living person, no Jew, has seen for nearly 2,000 years. But it is only if you are reading our Torah very, very closely that you will notice that compared to the rest of the Tanakh, Leviticus is but a brief interlude. What do I mean by that? The book of Exodus ends with the celebrations surrounding the completion of the Mishkan, the beautiful, elaborate tent structure in which God will now dwell, an event which happens on the first day of the month of Nisan. And next week, when we open the Parsha and open the book of Bamidbar, we begin with a census taken exactly 1 month later. Leviticus, all 27 chapters of it, takes place within one single month, the blink of an eye. That Levitical interlude, however, brief, is still transformative. It defines us, it teaches us something fundamental and vital about who we are as a people, and it also teaches us something fairly important about the Jewish people, which is that Jews can get used to pretty much anything. We get used to reading about 1,000-year-old sacrifices. We get used to reading about elaborate garments. We get used to reading about Bronze Age concepts of purity and rituals to combat tameh, impurity. We get used to reading about the secret lives of one caste, of one family, the Kohanim. We get used to being in a very brief interlude. We get used to this text, this book, this most arcane and ancient section of the Torah being the entirety of the center of our worship and our study and our focus. But then Bamidbar comes. It shakes us. It rattles us. It tells us it's time to move on. You need to finish the journey. It's time to leave behind what you've become accustomed to. It's time to move on, to sojourn once again towards something new. And that journey, as we know, does not come easily. It doesn't come without cost. In our journey through the wilderness, the 38 years which make up the book of Bamidbar, we have loss and fear and failure. And we also have hope and triumph and faith. Bamidbar is filled with movement, and it is filled with life. For more than a year now, many of us, and I count myself amongst this many of us, we have also gotten used to something. We have gotten used to the world outside our window being a frightening and often hostile place. It is as though we have gone through a dark mirror, and we have gotten used to this particularly painful moment in the world. It is like a dark interlude, if you would. A dark interlude which is marked by a surge of hatred and loss. And we have gotten used to, alternatingly, proudly wearing a kippah or a Magen David or a yellow pin, or depending on what part of town you go into, then taking a turn to tucking it under your shirt or putting on a nondescript hat. On Sunday mornings, we have gotten used to standing at the corner of Bathurst and Steeles, or avoiding it at any and all costs. We have gotten used to being angry at the news, to regularly signing petitions. We've gotten used to writing to our MP, to analyzing the media for bias and anti-Semitism. We've gotten used to our very ability to physically travel to Israel, to fly to Israel from literally anywhere in Canada, and we have gotten used to it just going away. Which is not to say that we are okay with it. It's just that we've become so accustomed to it being our reality that to live, we've made plans on how to deal with it. And having made plans on how to deal with it, we've gotten used to it. And having gotten used to it, one could be forgiven for thinking that this dark interlude is normal. That it's normal to be in an unfair world that has returned to hating us. That it's normal that this is par for the course. That it's normal that this is our life. and we settle in. And then came Wednesday night. Sarah and Yaron being murdered in cold blood on the streets of America's capital must shock us. It must outrage us, and it must move us back into reality. Not the sad, normal reality that we have accepted, but a higher reality. One where we know that this is not how things should be, that this is not something that we can plan for, that this is not normal. This is not normal. I have 3 points for this Shabbat, Behar Behukotai, that I hope will help us work our way through this distinctly not normal moment. The first is to remind ourselves that the journey is hard, but it is always worth it. Our ancestors knew that the journey from freedom to redemption, both the literal movement from Egypt to Sinai and onward to Israel, and both that and our spiritual exodus through millennia of diaspora was never easy. But it was always necessary. We are not a people who is content to dwell in the depths of sorrow. The journey is hard, but we have to go on it. Which brings me to the second point, that we as a people have never settled for a world that is broken. Our ancestors saw a world that they said was composed of shattered vessels and hidden sparks, a world of unending diasporic exile. And they said, I do not accept this fallen world. I embrace something else. I embrace the charge of tikkun olam b'malchut Shaddai, to repair this world for God's own sake. In Judaism, brokenness is exile, and exile is temporary. It is something we often experience, but it is something that we always reject. The natural state of the world is not brokenness. It is always moving towards redemption. Which brings me to the final point, that we are a people of radical hope. Radical hope. We never forget our loss, or our history, or our suffering. But what makes us people of hope is that we refuse to view those as the inevitable outcome of our story. Judaism knows that even if history has told us differently, that dark days are common, that in the grand trajectory of our history, that the dark days will be outnumbered, that we will have more singing, we will have more simchas, we will have more joy, and we will have more love. And no, I can't prove, and nor can the rabbis, that the arc of history bends that way. But I have hope. And every day we wake up, we still have hope. Our Torah reaches this moment. The book of Leviticus ends. The book of Bamidbar arrives very soon. Let it shake us. Let it wake us. And let it remind us that if you want to live, it's time to move. It's time to get back to the journey. Our communal journey, our people's journey towards something better, not something normal. Shabbat Shalom.